Hello, Mosh Jam fans, and welcome back to my world. This is part 3 of ranking every World Finals, and it's the bottom half of the top 10. This means that the next video will be the last, so we're almost done. Keep in mind that this video is my personal opinion, so there's no right and wrong, just taste. So without further ado, enjoy. So the World Finals have barely made it into the top 10. The upper crust. The last two videos is probably the most eventful World Finals ever. 2017. Since we're in the good half, let's start with the pros. Despite this being the first time JusticeZone.com was used for scoring, the scoring at this World Finals was surprisingly fair. And though Neil Elliott did deserve to win by a little bit, he only lost by a few hundredths, and I'm fine with Lee O'Donnell and his first competition front flip to finally get the championship that Lee has been deserving for many years. This year you had the first front flip, forward momentum backflip, reverse backflip, and run with 4 backflips, all of which were executed with perfection. And even though Neil's reverse backflip was more impressive, Lee's front flip was the most satisfying move in Monster Jam history. Neil also performed the forward momentum backflip, which honestly impressed me more than anything. Not only that, this was the only World Finals to contain these 4 highly skilled moves, as well as the corkscrew. What made the corkscrew even cooler was the fact that 2 female drivers, Rosalie Raymer and Wildflower, and Scooby-Doo, attempted it and failed. For the first driver to do it in history, Cam McQueen came out and showed the ladies how it was done. Now the cons are that the track was still all cluttered, wasn't at all memorable, and it had the worst found in the history of Monster Jam, which even tampered with a few runs, so that really puts it down. Also, the fact that it's after 2013, there's really not much you can do with it, though it is the best World Finals of that group. Moving on to 9th place. In 9th, we have the first World Finals ever, World Finals 2000. Being the first ever World Finals, this makes it automatically special, but other than that, you have a spectacular night. Sure, it wasn't nearly as big as any other World Finals, but it was satisfying. The runs were smooth, and you have several memorable moments. You have the reverse sky wheelie, Tom Mint's epic rollover, Sting's body flying off, NWO's run, and that truck being at that World Finals was very memorable, being the old mystery driver truck, which was played much worse than Doomsday was. The cons start with the fact that it kind of felt like a scripted night almost. Not that it was, but it didn't have the feel of any other World Finals freestyle, which is the more motorsports feel, and instead it felt more like a WWE thing. The freestyle course also was pretty boring, being the least colorful of all World Finals tracks. The freestyle also lacked a lot of excitement, though I think Dennis Anderson's run is rather underrated. That's about all I can really say about this one, so on to 8th place. In 8th, we have probably the most unique World Finals of all time, 2002. For pros, you have my personal favorite save in all of Monster Jam. You have Tom Mintz riding a wheelie over the roof of the center ramp bus. You have Predator getting stuck in the semi-trailer. The leaps over the center ramp. Several satisfying mobile home destructions, Mike Vaughters and Black Stallion taking down the semi-trailer, and 4 racing crashes. Now the cons start with the run, especially in the beginning being kinda slow, with the trucks basically rolling over the bus stacks, really lacking momentum. There also just wasn't enough to remember, because the only thing I mentioned before that people really remember is the Gravedigger save. Though it was the 20th anniversary for the truck, so that's really cool. Despite an entertaining and fun-looking track, with a rail car, buses on both sides, a cool red van on the center ramp, and obviously the trailer stack is always awesome, this track still had a bland color, just brown and some green, not counting any of the crush cars. With that said, moving on to 7th place. Okay, so this is a World Finals that, prior to this video, I forgot even existed, So that shows it needs to be taken down a few spots. However, there are a ton of pros. 7th place goes to World Finals 2013. First pro is that it was a very tasteful track, being the one and only properly cluttered track. And by that I mean that the track is pretty wild in the way it was designed, but not to the extent of 2014 or 2010, that it ruined a majority of the runs, and that is something worth mentioning. It also introduced the Jumbo Mobile Home against the first ever backflip wall, which Pablo Huffaker destroyed properly. It also was the first World Finals track to include more than one backflip ramp, each of which was used at some point. Speaking of backflips, that's a great segue into the main pros. You have the greatest backflip in March Jam history, in my opinion, by Scott Buteau in Hot Wheels. You have the greatest save in March Jam history by Lindsey Wink in Lucas Oil Crusader. You have the Chad Fortune ripping off the entire rear drive shaft in Captain America. You have the sick Decade of Destruction Max D body. You have the Max D Encore with the first ever double backflip and 3 simultaneous backflips, and several memorable crashes like Tom's failed freestyle backflip. You also have the debut of many iconic trucks and one of my personal favorite trucks, including Zombie, Bad Habit, Scooby-Doo, the more detailed Blue Thunder, and the Spike Max D. As for the cons, the first two line up with the first two pros. Both the Hot Wheels backflip and Lindsey Wink's save were ruined because they were both in bonus time, so they didn't get the full potential out of their scores. The track was also just mainly 2 colors, and I've never liked that. The scores were also a bit too low, with the highest only being a 34. Not that any of the runs really deserved any better. The freestyle also lacked the feeling of being actual competition for some reason. I can't really explain it, but for some reason it just felt like some sort of like show and tell of like new drivers just coming in and just like doing random things, but really with no purpose. It made it really weird because I kinda didn't care who won, just about watching March Jam action, which can be really nice and relaxing, but also can't be put too high, because excitement is one of the core foundations of memorable Monster Jams. And 6th place has no shortage of that. This next World Finals has the highest score average of any other, and more scores above 30 than any other. The last spot of Part 3 goes to World Finals 2001. I freaking love this World Finals. It is amazing. And starting here, the rest of the World Finals on this ranking list hardly have any cons. You have Pablo Huffaker's iconic racing crash. You have Lyle Hancock's iconic racing crash. You have the water pipe bursting in Thunder Alley conundrum. You have my favorite rookie run in March Jam history, which is Jill Canuso's run in wrenchhead.com. Jill Canuso's insane crash, Mike Waters' 2 reverse moves, Medusa's insane save, Jim Kohler taking out the mobile home, Sting taking out the mobile home, Pablo Huffaker driving onto Sting, one of Tom's greatest runs, the greatest rivalry in motorsports getting stuck on the trailer stack together, Dennis Anderson's crash, and the iconic encore of the Kings of Monster Jam. Now the cons are much like the cons from 2000 and 2002, with the track just being all brown with some green, being rather dull, making it hard to like it as much as the ones from the golden age of Monster Jam. Another con is that this was the only World Finals to not feature a center ramp, which is terrible, because the appearance of the center ramp is always one of the first things I think of when I remember a World Finals. Tell me if you agree. I mean, the only time the center ramp wasn't the most iconic obstacle on the track was 2008, because it was overshadowed by the triple. That is the last con, which will wrap up this position and end the video. That leaves only the top 5 left to be discussed, and all 5 of them are from the golden age of Monster Jam. That is 2006 through 2012. Tell me in the comments below if your favorite World Finals has already been on the list, because I know there are a lot of people who think 2001 is their favorite, and that is absolutely agreeable, as are all the ones that'll be in the next video. If you don't want to miss it, be sure to hit subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it when it comes out in 2 weeks. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button so I know. Feel free to share your personal opinion in the comments, while keeping in mind that everything in this video is my personal opinion. And without further ado, be great, stay awesome, drive.